And welcome back to Survivor Hot Takes. Survivor Hot Takes, not reality hot takes, because we are back talking about Survivor about 2 weeks before the premiere. It is me, Coach Drew, aka the Iceman, because we are talking about Survivor Thailand, in my opinion, worst season in Survivor history. But joining me today is Julia, who is from the online org community, who is here to potentially defend some of the defend the season, not defend the negative aspects of the season, but more defend the season in general. I don't think that Julia would put Thailand as like her top or anything, but it's not a shit season in her opinion. So Julia, welcome to the show. Before we get started, I ask everyone that comes on, what is your Survivor hot take?
Yes, so as you alluded to, my Survivor hot take is Thailand is not a bad season. I'm not saying it's the best season. I'm not saying it's top tier, but it is not a bad season of Survivor.
Okay. I disagree. And I'm glad you could say that because we're just gonna go right into it. So how old were you? When was the first time that you watched Survivor Thailand?
Yeah, so I've been watching Survivor for as long as I can remember, and I've seen a lot, pretty much every season. And I had never seen Thailand. There's always a discourse going around that Thailand is horrible, Thailand is the worst. So I never watched it. And recently I started to do a complete series rewatch. And when I got to Thailand, I said, okay, this is the time. We're sitting down, we're going to watch it. And I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was that difficult to watch. I finished it in less than a week. It was pretty decent. And it
Okay.
probably was.
So I guess of the first 5 seasons of Survivor, where would you put it? Because I know you said it's not like top tier or whatever for you, but like let's go small sample size. For the first 5 seasons of Survivor, where does it fall for you?
I would probably put it at 4.
Oh God, over
I
what?
personally put it above Marquesas in
Oh my
watchability for
gosh, no,
to me. To,
no.
to me, Marquesas is not my cup of tea.
Oh no.
Or, hey,
No. Go ahead.
you
I'm
you
not
put me
here
on.
to judge. I know I'm not here to judge.
That's my fair. Yeah, Marquesas was very difficult for me to get through. I don't know why it just was, but like I said, I'm not saying Thailand is top tier for me. I probably wouldn't put it above anything else besides Island of the Idols. So, but I would probably put it at 4 of the first 5.
Okay. For everyone that listens, everyone knows my opinion on Marquesas. It's fine. It's whatever. We opinions. Everyone has their opinion. So what stood out to you with Thailand as far
Yes.
as not being hateable?
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer of there are no bad seasons of Survivor. I thoroughly enjoy every season that I watch. Yes, there are some bad aspects of seasons. Obviously, there's some things in Thailand that are not the best and that I 100% do not support. The same thing as things that happened in like Island of the Idols and such. But I like watching Survivor for like I appreciate it for game. And I think Brian Heidick obviously is like he is what he is, but had one of the most dominant wins of all time. And I enjoyed some of the characters in Thailand. I really liked Xian. Obviously, she went on to All Stars, and I loved watching Rob with two B's. He was a little different from a lot of the people that you saw in the first 5 seasons, and I thought it was interesting. I liked some of the twists they tried to throw in. Yeah.
So as far as twists are concerned, are you talking about the fake merge, or are you talking about other aspects of other twists that they introduced during the season?
Yeah, so obviously it's the first 5 seasons of the show. We've seen a tribe swap in starting in Africa and obviously the one in Marquesas. But other than that, there weren't many other game altering aspects of the game. We're not in obviously the immunity idol era, any of that stuff. But we saw in Thailand them start to experiment with those sorts of things. Obviously, we did not get the tribe swap, but we had the different element of them doing a schoolyard pick or their starting tribes. We had the opportunity for a mutiny and then the fake merge, as you said. They're just little aspects that especially when I started doing the complete rewatch, to see the evolution of the show of going from what it was in Borneo to even 5 seasons later, just seeing the little tweaks that they're starting to make to get to what Survivor is today.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that last aspect. As far as everyone that watches the channel knows that during COVID, I did 40 seasons in 40 days, and I've talked ad nauseum about the fact that you can basically watch American history from 2000 to 2020 through the eyes of Survivor, and even Borneo to Thailand, you can see a big difference, but and just the in the realm of Survivor, like Julia said, you go from Borneo where there are no tribe swaps, there are no types of twists. The biggest twist that season was that there was a merge, and then you get to Thailand where everyone expects a merge to be happening, and then they think that a merge has happened, and then it's like, oh, Jeff, oh yeah, I never said there was a merge. It's like, okay, monster, and Xian is screwed in that situation. So I I appreciate the new things that they introduced in Thailand. I appreciate maybe three of the characters that are in Thailand, but me and Julia very much disagree on this one because when I rank my seasons, it's usually Thailand and Island of the Idols at the bottom. The only defense I give to Island of the Idols is the fact that the cast is pretty good, if not like great. 19 out of the 20 of them, or 17 out of the 18. I can't remember exactly how many people were in the cast. Um, Thailand, at the beginning of the season, I was pulling for, I think, Xian or Helen. And then Xian gets voted out. No. Gandia gets voted out, which we'll talk about in a little while. Gandia gets voted out, and I totally turn on Helen, and I start rooting for crazy ass Jan, who, Jan has her whole thing, oh, the baby bat, and all that. And she's just an adorable teacher, like she doesn't know any better, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, out of all these monsters that we have on the show, I guess Jan's the way to go. But in my opinion, there weren't that many lovable characters and or people on the season based off of what we were shown. I'm sure they're all great people in real life, but what we were shown, it was like Jan, Helen, and Xian, and then everyone else had something wrong with them or were just boring. So, going to you, were the besides Rob with two B's, were there any other characters, and Sheehan, were there any characters that like stood out to you as like, oh, I can relate to this person, or like I like this person, blah blah blah, or was it just the two of them and you just enjoyed the fact that, hey, we just have another Survivor season?
I enjoyed most of like the younger cool tribe. Obviously that was like the dialogue when they picked is Jan seemed to pick like the older group, the quote unquote less athletic group, and Jake picked like the younger crowd. I enjoyed watching the dynamics play out over there, especially because it was very clear that like Brian was running that other tribe. What Brian wanted happened. But I thought I enjoyed watching Ken I believe his name, the police officer. I enjoyed
The
watching
police
him.
officer.
Yep, his relationship with Rob and how that developed. I liked that. I enjoyed Jake
It
as
was an
well.
adorable scene right before Rob gets voted out.
Yeah, I like that tribe especially.
I think it was the Sukjai tribe. The purple. Yeah, that was the purple tribe. It was the Sukjai tribe, and I loved them because they were so much like how people like the Kasaya tribe from Panama, or the Villains tribe from Heroes vs. Villains. Like they're just so dysfunctional, but there's just something about them that stands out. And I did enjoy the Sukjai tribe just because they were just so chaotic. But the difference between them and like a Kasaya tribe is if you ask like just a regular Survivor fan to name 4 people from the Sukjai tribe from that season, they probably wouldn't be able to do it because they don't have any, in my opinion, they don't have any memorable characters past Rob and Cheyenne. Rob with 2 B's and Cheyenne. And the only reason they remember Rob is because he choked Clay and because he got bitten in the water and had that whole scene where where he got stung. And I think that there was a lot of elements there with the Sukjai tribe that could have been better, and it didn't help that when the actual merge happened, they just got pagonged because, like you said, Brian had so much control all these J-Brones on the Chewigan tribe, Chewigan tribe, that they all thought they were going to the end with them. So the 5 of them, 5 or 6, take out the rest of the Sukjai tribe, and then they go on, and then Brian basically picks them off in order. I think that the attack zone the attack zone challenge is one of the most infamous and or memorable challenges in the history of the show. Just because of the scene where Rob chokes Clay. Opinions on the attack zone tribal. I don't know why I keep saying challenge. And do you think they should ever bring it back?
Absolutely. It's so entertaining. Obviously, we're both big Survivor fans. I think we've watched a bunch of the countdown videos, like top this moment, top that. And this is one of the things I'd heard most about Thailand was this challenge. So, no, you're not in the attack zone. You're out. No, you were in the water. You weren't even on the. It's classic. It is. It's wildly entertaining. It's undeniably entertaining.
And I think that the reason they got rid of the attack zone is because 1, no one was following the rules, but 2, I feel like it is kind of dangerous because if people are not following the rules, then people could get hurt. Yeah. But having said that, the attack zone was probably my favorite challenge to watch on the season. My favorite challenge on the season, period, was the final 3 challenge where they're in the cave and they're holding it, they're holding the coins like that. It was very uncomfortable to watch, though. But I thought that was one of the best endurance challenges that they've ever done. But it just sucked that it was Brian against 2 old people, and it's like, yeah, Brian really had to screw up here to not be sitting at the final 2. I know you brought it. You go ahead.
I mean, hey, we saw what happened in Africa when it was 2 young, fit men against an old person. So let's.
Well, I mean, what Lex had like irritable bowel syndrome or something. He was gonna shit himself, and then he had Ken Johnson, who.
That's my hot take for another day. Don't even get me started on that.
So I want to touch on Brian real quick. I know you said that he's one of the most dominant winners of all time. I would tend to agree with you as far as that, but I don't think so. The 3 main aspects of the game: strategy, social, physical. I don't think that he played any of those games well. Maybe the strategic part because everyone thought they're going to the end with it, but like the social aspect, he should have blown Clay out at Final Tribal, but. He didn't, and I feel like because people felt so bitter towards him, which is a knock on a social game. The physical game, once he got to the point where he was playing against older people, yeah, he's going to dominate that. But strategically, I do think that Brian Heidick is one of the greatest winners ever in that realm, because he had people convinced from the very beginning that they were going to the end with him, and no one, shared notes to figure out if that was the case. So what did you like about Brian in that case?
Yeah, this was obviously a big Survivor fan. I've listened to the countdown episodes that Rob as a podcast has been doing, and I have to agree with David Bloomberg on this. Like, everyone hates a pagonging. I don't mind a pagonging. I'm not saying it's my favorite thing to watch, but I can appreciate just the overall strategy of keeping your sheep in check and getting rid of the other side. There was not a single point where Brian was going to go home. There should have been. Like you said, Helen's husband came to the family visit, said, vote him out. And she said, oh, honey, you're so silly. I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that?
I'm going to the end with him. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, he had these people so misted that they were his true final two. Even when him and Clay would be like he haunted up, doing whatever, obviously very tight. And he had every single person in that core five that made it to the final five convinced that it was going to be them two at the end. And they were completely fine with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
I agree.
That's something that you've seen very, very few winners have. And I can maybe name two.
Kim and
Rob in Redemption Island, and he still didn't even do it as well, because obviously you had Andrea and whomever else.
Yes, the people in that season, at least with the Redemption Island, people sussed out Rob way earlier than Kim. Where in one world you just had Troyzan saying, "Oh yeah, Kim," and no one else is listening. And Redemption Island, everyone is saying Rob, and everyone's like, "Oh no, we're fine." Blah blah blah. And it's the case could be made for Thailand in that situation where like you said, Helen's husband is saying straight up, "I've known this guy for an hour at max, and this guy is going to win the game." She's like, "Oh no, you're dumb as fuck. I don't know what you're talking about." And then he goes on, and she was one of the people that was it was at least alluded to that she was kind of bitter during that final tribal. And I think that the problem with Thailand, one of the problems with Thailand, is the fact that Brian could have sat at the end with almost anyone and probably still won. Anyone from the Chewy Gun tribe. So I feel like if he had sat next to Jan, Helen, or Ted, he probably would have won. If he had sat next to Sukjai people, that's a different story. But then you have the moments where like Ted is sitting there saying, "Oh yeah, you guys said something racist," huh? And it's like, I know there's been a lot of rumor and innuendo, as one wrestling podcaster would say. But as far as what Brian or Clay may have said off screen, but the fact that Brian went in there against probably the most hateable person on the cast and still only won 4-3. I mean, in my opinion, a win is a win, period. It doesn't matter how many votes you win by, but like, he should have blown Clay out.
He should have. But I think something that is a positive to his game is that, yes, Clay got the early jurors, but the people that should have felt the most burnt by Brian and the most pissed off by Brian, because none of them liked Clay. Like, none of the people who are aligned with Clay enjoyed Clay, but they should have felt more burnt by Brian. But he was still able to secure the Ted vote, Helen's vote, and Jan's vote, even though those are the three people that should have been pissed off the most at him.
Exactly. I do agree. And I think that whose vote did he? Oh, Penny. I think it was Penny that asked him, "Tell me anything about me that you learned in the game," and he was like, "I don't know."
Just saying. I mean, Clay knew. I don't think Clay could tell you anything about anyone else, but he could tell you about the two young blonde women.
Yeah, he knew Gandhi. He knew Gandhi from Denver, He knew Gandhi was from Denver, and that was about it.
That's all moment.
Um, and I think going off of what you said earlier about like there's no shit Survivor seasons or anything like that. In my opinion, I think there's two, but even in those two seasons, there are still moments that we can always look back on and be like, that's a moment. And one of those moments is the Bye Bye Denver Diva moment with Gandia. There is the fake merge twist. There is Rob in the water, Rob with two B's in the water, and then voted out after they had their whole kumbaya moment over at Sukjai. And there's the family video thing, which I want to touch on for a second because everyone knows by now that Brian Heidick wasn't just period a car salesman.
Yes.
He was leading a double life, and not that there's anything wrong with it. But yeah, do what you have to do to make your money. But that family video visit really stuck out to me as far as, wow, this guy's social game is better than it should be, because watching that video, if I'm out there playing, the next time Brian is eligible to get voted out, I'm voting him out because, yeah. And so what did you think about that and the actual family visit, besides, Helen's husband saying, oh yeah, he's going to vote out, or he's going to win?
I loved first off the actual family visit challenge, where the family members had to eat the bugs. Like, I'm a big fan of family visit challenges where it's really like involved. The family members are there and not just kind of sitting off to the side doing whatever. I love the involved. And it meshes two of my favorite things: the family visits and the gross food eating challenge. Boom. I loved it.
Two of my favorite things too, so.
Perfect. And the video too, like you said, if I'm out there and I see this guy with the nice house, like the car, everything, goodbye. You're not winning. I'm not letting you win. I'm not letting you sniff the end of the game because you don't need it. Especially in the early games of Survivor, where that was a lot of it, was like,
yeah,
oh, like, who needs the money, blah blah blah. Like that was a big thing when strategy wasn't as highly revered as it is now. And for him to be able to kind of just like, okay, forget about that, and have everyone in the game disregard that, I think it's an incredible notch in his game on his part. Because I think any of us watching it back now would say the same thing, like, no way am I letting that guy win. And I'm assuming they said the same thing when they watched this season, but Brian got them to completely forget about it and give him $1 million. I mean, 600,000. Yeah. 600,000 once Obama takes it.
Obama takes the weight, yeah.
600,000 once Obama takes it.
And I think that's the thing with Brian is, if he hadn't had his off-the-show issues and he hadn't come off as such a sociopath on his initial season, I still don't think that Brian would have done well if they had brought him back for, All-Stars or Heroes vs. Villains or anything like that, because at that point people would have known, oh yeah, like, this guy is clearly just messing with us. He doesn't believe anything that he's saying. We need to get rid of him. And it's a lot different from any other winner that had been, had come to that point, plus any other all-star that had come to that point, because each of their games you could work with. But with Brian, it's like, I can't trust this guy because I don't know if I am his actual one. And in Brian's book, like, it was Clay, period.
That's it.
And everyone, yeah. So and everyone else was dispensable.
And that's only because he knew he could beat Clay. I mean, it was close.
Yes.
I agree. I think if he does come back for All Stars, which we all heard about him, like, requesting an enormous amount of money to be back, But I think if he comes back for All Stars, Heroes vs. Villains, Winners at War, like disregarding personal things, something like that, I don't think he does well because, like, take other dominant winners like say Kim Spradlin.
Kim Spradlin.
Kim was like one vote away in Winners at War from really breaking into it. If she had just like developed a little better, like Sophie had just let her in a little bit more, I think it could have been good for Kim. Kim made it pretty far for being revered as the most dominant winner to ever play the game in Survivor because she was loyal to her people. Like it wasn't like this person is my only one. Like she had her group that she really stuck with, and they like knew who she was sticking with. She had the charisma, she had it all. Brian doesn't have that. He
played very stoically.
He played a very strategic game before that strategy, that like level of strategy was the norm. And if he comes back, especially like for an All Stars, he doesn't make it far because people are scared. I mean,
yes,
that level of strategy that he pulled off in his first season, his only season, was very ahead of its time, especially in the first 5 seasons. That he comes back, he's immediately a target.
Yeah, he's playing against a bunch of J-Browns, and I've said that a lot on this, but like he's playing against a lot of people that are like, like he'd have like even when he's playing with Sheehan, which that was another thing where like he just didn't remember her name the night that she got voted out, and he's just called, and you could tell that he's not playing an actual social game, because if you were playing a social game, at the bare minimum, you would know someone's name. And so I have Brian, and if I were to look at my list, it'd probably be like top 15 or whatever the fuck. But I do think that his flaws in the game could have ultimately cost him, whatever, and would potentially cost him if he were to ever play again, which he probably won't. And so overall, as we wrap up, I do understand where you're coming from. I do understand where a lot of people are coming from as far as the positives with this season. I do enjoy the attack zone. I do enjoy the fake twist, all that. And I think that the problem with this season is there's virtually no lovable players. So you like Rob of 2Bs. I'm assuming you like Rob 2Bs because it's fun. He's fun to laugh at and whatever.
Yes.
I'm assuming you don't like Rob 2Bs because it's like,
no,
man, I can pull for this game.
Strategic prowess. No,
Exactly. So any character that I like on this season, with the exception of maybe like Sheehan, it's just kind of like, okay, I can laugh at you, or I can just like outright hate you. But you don't bring in, and especially in my book, Coming After Marquesas, where there were a few people where I genuinely loved and or cried about when they won the game. You get to Thailand, it's like, ugh. And then you get to Amazon. Thankfully we get Amazon afterwards, and Nick Session, and all of that, and crazy mad. So I understand that. Thailand, I do plan on doing a rewatch soon. It's going to be a struggle. There's going to be many an alcohol drink during that. And I'm hoping that on a rewatch, I can find other things that can, not make it as hard of a watch to do. Because, especially with the Ted Gandia thing, it's just like, this is very similar to something that we see in season 39, but it's not played for laughs in season 39. And season 5, it's very much played for laughs, including at the reunion. And that's another thing with the whole time capsule thing, where it's like, you can look back on this, and this came out right after 9/11, and people are laughing at it in the fans. You go ahead.
Yeah, it's like this was a big thing with Survivor, as it's been on for 20 seasons. It is a time capsule. Like a lot of things that have happened, especially in the first 8 seasons, are things that would not be okay now. Like we see in Marquesas, Boston Rob basically outing someone.
John Carroll.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
are you
we
gay,
see
bro? It's like
we see that happening with Varner and Zeke, and it's basically like, okay, bye, you're done. And you see Jeff saying a lot of things, especially towards like even like towards the women. Is you get a lot of these things of survive. It is a
yeah, the
different.
whole Courtney thing where he's like, "Are you anorexic?" It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Like a lot of it's definitely not okay, but it just shows like wow, times were a lot different just 20 years ago. And although Survivor absolutely did not handle it correctly at all, they didn't do anything correctly in that situation. To see that in 39, they did a lot wrong, like a lot wrong with how they handled the situation. They should have pulled him immediately. And seeing the parallels to kind of how they handled it all the way back in season 5, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying it's very interesting.
I agree with you. Well, one, it wasn't played for laughs.
It definitely was
But
not.
two, they stepped in. Now they stepped like how much they stepped in. You can debate or whatever. But like the fact that they made a conscious effort to at least say, "Oh yeah, we talked to everyone about not doing this." And then we kicked them off the show, blah, blah, blah. As compared to Thailand, where it's like, it happens, Gandhi gets voted out, and then at the reunion, they do the confessional, no, the moment where Ted's like, "Oh yeah, I love my wife, and I'm this percent sure," and everyone in the fans are laughing. It's like, but why? Why are you laughing? This is uncomfortable. So yeah, ultimately, Thailand, even if I were to do a mini rewatches, it probably wouldn't break like the bottom 5 for my list. But like you said, you don't think there's any shit seasons of Survivor. I'm hoping that one day Thailand and Island of the Idols, I can still probably have them at 39 and 40, but I hope that I don't consider them shit seasons. I hope I can look past, accept things that happen, and look past them and say, hey, you know what? There were still positives with this because of this, that, and the other, because of the winners in Island of the Idols case, or because of these funny moments in Thailand's case. And, I hope I can sit here in 2 years and say, you know what? Thailand's not that bad. But, Julia, I appreciate you coming on. Oh, no, go ahead before I.
For me, it's every season of Survivor pushes the narrative. And I think even though it might not be seen as the best, I think there are aspects of Thailand, especially with the dominance of Brian's win, that helps push the narrative of the show and get us to where we were. And I see it as I see Survivor as not individual seasons, but like parts to the one big whole. And I think without a part, it's not the same. And that's why I don't think that seasons of Survivor.
Okay, I get it. I get it, and I kind of do watch the seasons like that. It's just those 2 seasons. Like maybe I just need to watch them as much as the other 38. But, like I said, I appreciate you coming on. I know this is kind of short notice. Everyone, for the record, before my actual video goes out with my thank yous and all that, thank you for 1,000 subscribers. It's been an amazing journey to get to this point. I appreciate the ones that tune in every week for hot takes. I know we had a lull there during the summer where we were just basically doing filler. For all my anime fans, filler is not the best, but I'm glad that you guys have stuck around. And I'm looking forward to the season debuting in a couple weeks where, the Survivor buffs are doing an episode with Peridium, Idled Out, Snuffed, The Specialists, and one other channel, and I can't remember what it was, that night. So make sure you guys tune in that night. All of us are going to be meeting up and having a grand old time. So until then, we will see y'all on the other side.